Good morning, Vietnam and other countries. Welcome once more to the Golden Talkies. I am the sub-host, James. Oh fuck, that's my last
Oh,
name. Shit. Shit.
oh, I'm not cutting that out
Shit.
after you
No.
tried to dox me
No. No.
last time. Do you want me to cut it out?
No.
Do you want me to cut out
Yes,
that? Okay,
yes,
right,
please.
I'll
It's at the
write down.
beginning, so it won't be hard.
Yeah. Fuck, what was I about to say? Vietnam. Most of our listeners are
Yeah,
from the US, Jamie, according to Anchor.
that's nice.
I believe. Let me
They
look at the
invade
stats
Vietnam
now.
and they lost.
I
I'm
should.
sure no one knows that. It's a very obscure historical fact.
I might have made a big mistake. I just clicked on the Chrome icon. For those that don't know, aka everyone listening, my computer is really playing up today,
Hmm.
and I just clicked on Chrome and it's not opened, which always concerns me.
That's
But
fun.
anyway, here we are, the Golden Talkies
Yeah.
podcast. I'm Duncan.
I found out that I have two USB ports 5 minutes ago on my
Oh
computer.
shit! I was about
I
to
have,
I was about to do a line about that. I was about to say, Jamie,
uh,
I can hear you really well, but I can't hear your mouse clicking. What's going on? But you just ruined
exactly.
it.
It's
So
incredible. I
thanks.
can use my mouse and my microphone, my proper microphone, at the same time, thus solving the problems that have been experienced. Isn't that wonderful,
That is
listener?
wonderful. I had a similar
Especially
thing.
you, Alex.
I had a similar
I know you're my
thing
favorite.
this week,
Mm-hmm.
where because the computer's been playing up, I was going to record on my laptop, but I realized I only have one microphone port thing,
Mm.
so I could either have my microphone plugged in or my headphones, and I was like, well, I'll probably better just try and do it on my computer, and see if it works, because I don't want I don't want them to hear you, and I don't want to use my microphone on my laptop.
Yeah,
So there you go. Fun fact:
Understandable.
both of us have had uh,
I mean,
had I don't know. What is this, Jamie? What were you? What?
yes. Now
who
that it's
are
been
we?
2 minutes and we've weeded out the week.
Yeah.
Premise of this podcast is that we watch a film that came out 50 years ago this week. This occasionally being used in a very flexible manner.
Yeah.
But
By occasionally, we mean the last 4 episodes when we got.
yeah, we were watching festival films instead of real ones. But
Guess what, Jamie?
yeah,
Today we are recording on Saturday.
yeah.
This film came out on the 9th, which was Wednesday. It's 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've not said the name of the film yet.
Yeah.
We'll say it in a second. That means that this episode should go up on time on Sunday, as we promised last week. How crazy is that?
And it'll be about an actual film that came out 50 years ago this week. We've
It's
succeeded.
going to be a film came out 50 years this week. They will be might be giants. Is that the name of the film?
Yeah. Also, the name of a very popular
Yeah.
band. One would say a much, 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 much more popular band than this film has ever really enjoyed, if you know what I mean.
The band came up every time I searched it.
Yeah, I assume even by our usual
Yeah.
standards of search engine optimization, this one will be placing pretty low. But we'll see.
You reckon? Maybe people will be looking for the band and they'll find this.
And after scrolling through maybe 300 videos on They Might Be Giants, the band, they'll see a podcast episode labeled 1971.
do you
Go, were they alive in
do you
19...
think
Hmm?
do you think if we say the name band enough and also mention a bunch of their songs, YouTube will like pick up on it, and Anchor will pick up on it and recommend
Cool.
it to?
The only, I hate to admit it because this will lose us our new They Might Be Giants fan base, but the only They Might Be Giants song I know is The Communists Have the Music. So I'll just pepper that in when
I didn't know any of them. I listened to a little bit of It's Istanbul, not Constantinople, just
Okay.
for the thing came on. It was fine. I don't know. I feel like I probably would have to listen to the band more. Maybe listen
Yeah.
to such songs as. Give me a second while I look up some songs that I can
Very nice.
say.
Very nice.
This is some good sound on air right now. They might be giants.
Well, why don't I leap
maybe
in?
I would listen to Istanbul or Birdhouse in Your Soul or Particle Man or Don't Let's Start.
I've heard
or Anna
Birdhouse in Your
NG.
Soul before.
Have you? I've not heard.
Yeah,
okay, I've not
Birdhouse
heard
in Your
any
Soul
of
is a
these.
good song.
Oh, should I put a really obscure one in that'll like
Yeah,
get
yeah.
lots of views? Let me go down. Let me like scroll all the way down in their list. This might not be obscure. Maybe I should listen to I Love You for Psychological Reasons from 2015. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Uh-huh.
What's this film about, Jimmy? No, not what's this film about. When did this film come out? And
1971.
what? The 9th of June, right?
9th of June. You already said, but that's fine. It's
And
good.
guess what, Jamie?
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the historical context. I
Yeah.
was looking at Life magazine for this week, 50 years ago,
Yeah.
and it had an article about Walkabout.
Nice. That's a film we've watched.
That's
And
a
was
film we've watched. It was very positive about it. However, the review spoiled the entire film. I don't know if it was
Well,
meant to be one of those reviews that's like, for someone who's watched it, that they can like
hmm.
read along and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But it literally spoiled the entire film. It
Well, I
also had a...
suppose.
Oh, go on.
Sorry.
Go on. Go
I
on.
was just
go
saying,
on.
the 70s didn't really have this sort of spoiler culture, right?
That's
So
true. Yeah.
probably didn't view it as much of a faux pas to say that, like, there's not really a twist how it ends either. Maybe I'm sure if it was like an actual plot twist, then people would maybe feel more upset. If you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, you don't know that he's going to kill himself, and then
That's true.
This review literally says the boy ends up killing himself over the love for the woman.
Mm.
Anyway, the article has a very weird line, or a line
Yeah.
that I found very weird, which said that Jenny Agutter, who plays the girl, is
Mhm.
radiantly beautiful in the tasteful and necessary nude scenes. So I think that's a bit weird, given that she's underage, and
Yeah,
the fact that they said both tasteful and necessary feels like they're kind of forcing a point there.
it's because like you read these old reviews and they always talk about like how beautiful the women are, and you can maybe like
Yeah.
make points either way about how relevant that actually is to the film. But just the extra comments about the nude scenes being both
Yeah.
tasteful and necessary.
Tasteful and necessary, Jimmy. They're allowed to say that she's radiantly beautiful because you got to understand these scenes are tasteful and necessary, Jamie.
Yeah. If it was one or the other, I couldn't possibly live
No.
with it. But,
No, because I'm not a pedo or anything. I'm not a
Yeah.
pedo. But when the scenes are tasteful and necessary, you gotta recognize the radiant beauty.
Yeah,
Just-
it's like
yeah.
I told the judge at my trial 2 years ago, officer, she might have been 12, but I felt it was tasteful and necessary. And he said, "Look, you're free to go, mate. I get how this
No,
works."
Jamie, that's maybe a bit hard.
Bit dark, cool.
No, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. No, that was funny. Good. So
Good.
that's all the historical context I had.
Yes,
Like
the
what?
historical context is that people like to talk about underage women in the 70s.
Exactly. Which is not really relevant to this.
Much like our favourite celebrities, Rolf Harris and Jimmy Savile, at the peak of their popularity
Exactly.
at this point. Anyway, would you like to hear some actual historical context?
Yeah,
Steve?
we'd love to.
Alright, this used to be your job, but I found a site to tell me, so I'm going to say now. In the music charts this week, or at least starting on the 7th,
Oh yeah, the music charts. I forgot.
in the United States, you got a guess? You might have heard of it. You'll have heard of the band.
Oh fuck! I've no idea. I'm not even.
Brown
gonna-
Sugar by the Rolling Stones,
All right. Okay.
off their album Sticky Fingers.
I'm not sure I can. I'm sure I'd recognize that song if I heard it, but.
It's like brown sugar.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And then in the UK, it was a song called "Knock Three Times" by Dawn, which I must confess I've not heard of.
No, not aware of that one.
Yeah. So let's go on to on this day. On the 7th, the Soviet Soyuz 11 crew completed their first transfer to the orbiting Salyut space station, which we talked about last week. So that's just the end of that story, I suppose.
Nice.
The British General Officer commanding the British Army, Harry Tuzo, claims that a permanent military solution to the troubles in Northern Ireland cannot be achieved.
Right.
Tying back into, because there's been a lot of troubles action in this 1971 year, and you know what? There hasn't been a permanent end to it, even as we speak. Ain't that sobering? North Vietnam demands the US end aid to South Vietnam.
Yeah.
Some people are born, some people die.
Right.
On
No
this
one
day,
any.
the day this film premiered, Abdul Zahir is appointed Premier of Afghanistan. And Paul McCartney's album Ram goes gold, which is a good album and came out last week, 50 years ago.
Last week. 2 years ago.
Harold Lloyd Jr. Dies at 40 of a cerebral hemorrhage on this day.
All right. Okay.
Son of famous silent film actor Harold Lloyd Sr.
Of course.
On the 10th, a Thursday, 11 die in a train crash in Salem, Illinois. And in the 44th National Spelling Bee, Jonathan Knisley wins by spelling... Which word do you believe he might have spelled?
Discombobulation.
He spelled the word shalloon, which I must admit I've
Okay.
never heard of before. But maybe it's
What,
pronounced differently, and that makes it more
what's the
difficult.
definition?
They haven't shown me.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Some people born, some people die, as always. Michael Rennie dies on this day, from the day the Earth stood still. In a historical event, on the Friday, the 11th, the
Mhm.
U.S. and Japan signed an accord to return Okinawa to Japan. So, good, because it's theirs. And the U.S. ended its ban on China trade.
Okay. The
Mhm.
U.S. ends its ban on China trade. Presumably, that's quite
Yep.
a big
That sounds pretty
milestone,
good to me.
right?
I suppose China wasn't as economically developed at this time.
No, but you have to think that this could be the start of something that
Yeah.
maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know much. Because obviously the 70s is like the peak of the Cold War. No, that's not true. It cools down. No, it cools down in the 70s, and then it
Yeah.
gets back in the 80s. That's the way it works, right?
That's right. Yeah.
This is part of that, you could say.
Yeah, I guess it's probably not got much to do with the current China trade being like the biggest. Anyway, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
well, the US would never use trade sanctions to impose its power. Not that there's anything immoral about that, obviously. Unless you're being imperialist about it, but who cares? Nothing of particular interest happens on June 12th. Other than Tricia Nixon and Edward Cox marry at the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And then on June 13th, the Sunday, the New York Times begins publishing excerpts from the Pentagon papers.
Ooh,
Uh,
wow.
I'm sure will contain nothing that looks bad about the US.
No,
uh,
definitely not.
In defiance of a government ban, members of the Orange Order march through the mainly Catholic town of Dungiven in
Right.
County Derry, causing a riot. So that's more trouble stuff.
Nice, good,
Fun.
good stuff.
In LPGA Championship Women's Golf, Kathy Whitworth wins by 4 strokes from Kathy Ahern.
Oh wow, okay.
It's a lot of women called Kathy playing golf. um,
It does seem like a sort of golf name, doesn't it?
yeah. The Broderick non-uplets are born in Sydney, Australia, which I guess must mean 9 babies at once.
Right, great, good.
Sounds absolutely horrible.
How would that even work?
I could look it up. I guess I'm just worried about this. No, I can do it now. I guess just the thing that causes twins happens. Whatever.
Well, how can a woman carry 9
babies at once?
babies
A lot of effort.
inside her? I don't know. I guess I'm not very knowledgeable about how it works beyond.
Okay.
Like
It does sound an awful lot. Not to spoil what happens next week, but all of them die.
Okay. Right.
So that
So,
probably
probably-
does not.
The answer to my question is not very successfully.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of quadruplets have been born in history, and yet they seem to have mostly been recorded.
What?
I'm just looking because the Wikipedia article for this stuff is just adding like birth of a lot of children.
Right.
Here we go. A set of non-uplets were born on the 13th of June 1971 in Sydney, Australia, to Geraldine Broderick and her husband Leonard. They were 5 boys and 4 girls. 2 of the boys were stillborn, and the last surviving of the babies, named Richard, died 6 days after birth. But Miss Broderick had 2 older daughters, Belinda and Jacqueline, who were both single births.
Right.
That's quite sad. Although, weirdly, there has been 2 other recorded cases of non-uplets. One was in 1999, and again, they all died.
Right.
But this very year, on the 4th of May 2021,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
in Morocco, a Malayan woman named Halima Sis had 5 girls and 4 boys, and they all appeared to be healthy, which is nice.
But they still. I mean, that's only last month, so they could still all die.
Yeah. Well, that's very nice. And
Not to be
literally,
morbid or anything.
at time of recording, 4 days ago, a set of decuplets, 7 boys and 3 girls, were born to a 37-year-old
Wait, really?
Africa. Yeah, it's 8th of June 2021.
Oh, we're really.
Making strides and having a lot of children at once.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I just think if I had that many children, I wouldn't be able to have a personal relationship with all of them. I would think of them as a group, as a collective.
And I mean, that must wreak havoc on someone's finances, right? If you're
Yeah, well,
you make a financial decision to have a kid and you end up having 10, like
yeah, I forget how much they say the average child costs. It's like $500,000 or so at least, right?
probably
Yeah. But like 10 children is ridiculous. That's you supporting a family of 12.
yeah.
Um,
Good
but
maths.
even if you pass in,
Impressive.
thank you. I
Yeah.
did pass P2.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. You need a really big house, obviously. I don't know how you'd even transport them because you're not going to get
Yeah.
a 12-seater car, are you?
No, and the bus or two cars and have to have
I
two
guess.
people at all times driving.
Exactly. It sounds like a bit of a faff. That's my opinion on raising 10 children.
Maybe we're just describing raising children.
Well, it's always a bit of a faff. But what if it was
Yeah,
that?
but yeah, no, definitely, it's a lot.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, doesn't sound fun. What a sobering insight into the world at that time.
Shall we
We could start talking about the film.
talking about the film, maybe?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna be like that, yeah, sure. We can talk about the film. The
It's
film.
another Sherlock Holmes film, Jamie.
Yes, that is quite interesting. Yes,
Just
so me
mere
and Duncan
months
last
after
year
we
at
watched
one
the
point
last
did
one.
The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, which was neither of us really liked it. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Oh yeah, well hasn't been that long. But yeah, that was a film about Sherlock and Watson set in Victorian times, with a bit of an emphasis on Sherlock's inner life, as it were.
Yeah, he was a raging homosexual.
Yes, but
Is that an appropriate term? Raging homosexual? Are you allowed to say that these days? That feels like it could be not great. Jink is okay?
I think so long as you're saying every syllable of homosexual, no one can.
Oh yeah, you don't want to say raging. Yeah, okay, got it. I think
An enthusiastic homosexual.
Yeah.
Not an enthusiastic homosexual, but you know.
Yeah, maybe let's just use the term homosexual.
He was gay in that film.
Yeah. Let's not start using. Right, go on.
Yes, this film is not set in Victorian times. It is set in today times.
And he's not. Today times 50 years ago, and
exactly.
As far as we can tell, Holmes is not a raging homosexual, and he's also not Sherlock Holmes.
He's not even. He's quite heterosexual in this film. Not even homosexual. Or an asexual even.
He's a raging hetero.
Well, actually, he could be a bisexual.
He could be bisexual. You don't
know. Regardless, yes, it is New York, 1971, a setting that we have never explored before in this podcast.
Nope. At what point did you realize it was New York? Because it took me embarrassingly long.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I just missed something at the start, but it wasn't until they got to Times Square that I realized they were in New York and not somewhere else.
Like, the thing for me with this film is that I knew it was set in New York because I looked at the premise while I was looking at it up.
Oh, right, okay.
But what really took me a long time was to figure out exactly when it was set, because it really doesn't look like the 70s for a long time.
No.
So the early scenes are all set in either the asylum or Sherlock quote-unquote's apartment. So it's quite hard to get a feel for when it is.
Do you think it's supposed to be a bit timeless?
Yeah.
A little bit. Not timeless, but you know, it's not like focusing on the era particularly, unlike some of the other films that we've watched.
It's quite interesting in that way. Just to vaguely lay out the plot, this film is about a former judge whose wife has died, and he's become deluded into believing that he is Sherlock Holmes. This man is played by George C. Scott, who we last saw in a career-defining work in Patton.
Yeah, he was alright. He was alright in Patton.
He was very good in Patton, I thought.
Yeah. And Doctor Strangelove, of course, as we discussed when we watched Patton, he was in Doctor Strangelove as well.
Yeah, so he's a talented actor.
He is. This is a different role.
Yes, this is a comic role. Well, actually, I suppose Doctor Strangelove was also comic, but this isn't a blustering military type, which is what sort of unites those two other roles.
Yeah. Well, no, but he plays two characters in Doctor Strangelove, doesn't he?
Does he?
Does he not play the guy in the wheelchair as well? Does he not play Doctor
No, you're
Strangelove?
thinking of Peter Sellers.
Oh,
Peter Sellers plays three roles in Doctor Strangelove.
Oh, right. You're right.
Yeah, sorry, his real
It's not
name.
often you're wrong, but you're right again.
Thank
As
you,
they
thank
say.
you. So his real name is Mr. Playfair,
Yeah,
and he has
that's
a
right.
sizable estate, which his brother is going to become the executor of, because he's not, he's incapax, as they say, because he's insane.
Yeah.
But so he takes Sherlock to the mental asylum, where he meets a nice mental doctor who is coincidentally
And
uh,
I think there's another name, Jimmy, for a mental doctor that doesn't make him
uh,
sound like a mad scientist.
a doctor specializing in mental health.
Right. That might
Uh,
be.
mental health professional. That's what they are.
Yeah, that sounds.
I don't know if you need to have a medical degree for that, or if that's more like people who
And
sort
she not
of
isn't it like a psychotherapist or something?
psychoanalyst,
Psychoanalyst,
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist, maybe.
Yeah, you get the idea.
Psych something. Yeah.
Coincidentally, her name is Dr. Jane Watson. Uh,
Watson, but that's Sherlock
well,
Holmes'
exactly.
buddy
So
and potential lover, depending
exactly.
who
So
you believe.
a good 40 years before Hit show Elementary, this was already a gender swapped Watson.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
but yes, this really excites Sherlock because he's now found his partner, and he drags her off in search of the villainous Moriarty. And that is the course that the film sets going forward.
Indeed.
So, right, what we were saying before about the era this film takes place in,
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I find it quite weird that they don't really concentrate a lot on how a man who is convinced he's from Victorian times would react to the 70s. It's he
Yeah.
doesn't find any of it weird or confusing or
I,
difficult.
I guess he's. I don't think he thinks he's Sherlock Holmes in that he thinks he is Sherlock Holmes from Victorian era, and that's where he lives. I think he thinks that he is Sherlock Holmes, and wherever he lives is just where he lives because he's Sherlock Holmes, and that's just his reality.
Yeah,
I
well, it's
think.
just,
But I know what you mean. They could have made
Yeah.
something of it, but then. How many films have you seen where the guy comes out and he like sees a taxi and almost gets run over and goes and then maybe they wanted to
Maybe.
not do that.
I just think, even if those gags are cliched, oh, I don't want to suggest how they would improve the film, but it's just there's a
No,
lot
you
of
wouldn't dare.
it's made bizarrely, not bizarre. It's strange how little they make of the fact that he is deluded and should not be fitting into the world. He fits into the world very, very naturally for someone who is convinced that he is a famous fictional character from 70 years ago, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who we meet kind of accept his presence unquestioningly. He never really struggles with adapting to anything. And also, he genuinely has the skills of Sherlock Holmes, although they are somewhat inconsistent about that. But, like, he is able to, like, accurately deduce things in a...
Well, that's
You know,
probably because he's a judge and a very intelligent person generally.
yeah, but, like, he's still able to make... I don't want to say superhuman, because the whole point of Sherlock is that he's not superhuman, but, like, genius-level deductions from common details. If you know what I mean. Like,
Maybe he's a genius then.
well, maybe, but it's just strange. Because I suppose another angle you could have gone is that it might be quite funny if someone was convinced they were Sherlock, but they actually had no deduction skills whatsoever, and they were just randomly guessing all the time.
That would be funny. Maybe I should write that down.
Uh,
That's a good idea, Jamie.
Thank you, thank you. I'm
Might,
glad I'm giving you cool ideas.
might try that one.
But yeah, and he has genuine fighting skill as well,
Yeah.
which is a bit weird for a judge.
Yeah.
I-
I don't know.
It's just not entirely clear. It's not really that firmly established what Mr. Playfair believes about himself, other than just the sentence he thinks he's Sherlock Holmes. But none of the there's no boundaries that are established. If you know what I mean?
I guess it's one of those films where his like mental illness is one of these like magic ones that just completely
Yeah.
changes him. Like of course he's able to fight because he's Sherlock Holmes.
hmm
Maybe. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot can be said about this film's attitude towards mental illness, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just feel because I saw the ultimate point of the film, but for a lot of the film, I was wondering what the point was of even having him be someone who believes he's Sherlock Holmes rather than just have Sherlock Holmes in the 70s, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's
Uh,
because it's not real.
well, yeah, I mean, at the end of
That's the
by the
point.
film's end, it becomes a lot clearer what's arguing, so that point sort of vanishes. But like when you're watching, for a lot of the film, when you're watching it, he is just acting as Sherlock Holmes would in the 70s, but he's been cut and pasted into the 70s, and there's no friction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Which is just a weird thing to not have. That's what I'm saying. Because this film isn't that funny. That's probably something I should establish now.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's not.
some more gags, and these just seem like really obvious places where you could have got them.
True.
Uh,
True.
but yeah.
Hmm. Interesting thoughts.
I can't remember who played Sherlock in Private Life.
Oh, don't know. I'll
Yeah.
look it
Well,
up.
what did you think of the performances comparatively
Of
uh,
Holmes.
of Holmes? Yeah.
Let me look up Private Life of Sherlock Holmes so I can get an image in my head of how it was because I've kind of forgotten.
Yeah, it wasn't that memorable. It was Billy Wilder. No, Billy Wilder produced it. Sorry, it was Robert Stevens.
Private
That's
Life of Sherlock Holmes. Oh yeah, he was kind of
He's very much a precursor to like the asshole Holmes. That's like popular.
yes, that's right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
remembering it vaguely now. Still
Yeah.
not that well. I
liked-
thought this one was good.
Uh-huh.
In terms of portraying someone that thinks they're someone else
Mm.
pretty well.
Well, I feel
Um,
the sort of course George C. Scott has clearly taken is that he's going to portray Sherlock Holmes, and therefore will be portraying a man who believes he's Sherlock Holmes.
yes,
don't-
exactly. Yeah. I guess
So
it's quite a cliched performance, or quite a
yeah,
as expected performance, but then that's kind of excusable because he is playing someone who is playing Sherlock Holmes in a way.
yeah. There's not a lot. Like he's definitely just playing what you'd expect an actor to play Holmes as. And he does it well, but like there's no sort of like nuances. I would say that like suggest that this is someone who believes they are Sherlock Holmes instead. If you know what
Yeah, exactly.
I mean. It's quite. It's competently done, but unremarkable.
Yeah,
Is what I'd say.
yeah.
So yeah, right. Yes. So to go through the film, bit by bit, we get to the asylum, and we meet Nurse Watson, and she diagnoses
Dr. Watson, please, Jamie.
Dr. Watson.
She
she's
didn't do.
like-
She didn't do that degree just to be called a nurse.
Yeah. I said Miss, which is perhaps worse.
Oh,
don't
I
know.
thought you said nurse Watson.
I guess because I was emphasising the fact that this is a female Watson.
Right.
My excuse.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's everything, is it? Yeah.
Well, because it's an important choice, and we only mentioned it once, so maybe
Yeah.
people would have forgotten. Regardless, Dr. Watson, yes,
She's
she
got a
died
man.
with classic paranoia, which
Wait, is it classic? That she's convinced that he's a classic, and she keeps going on about
Yeah.
how she's
Well, it's
not
quite
seen a
weird 'cause-
classic for years and all this stuff.
I think you and I, well, maybe at least me, when I first heard that, I assumed she meant he's got paranoia, but like unexceptional paranoia. It's a classic paranoia case.
Yeah.
Case classic.
Yeah.
But actually, and like you go, well, clearly he's not. He's not really that paranoid. He thinks he's someone else. That's clearly not what paranoia is.
Yeah.
uh,
It's quite the opposite, in fact.
That is in fact capital C classic paranoia.
See,
And that-
Jamie, I actually deduced that using my mental reasoning.
Yes.
Through the way that she pronounced her C, you could tell that she was saying a capital. And by
Really?
thinking back on how paranoia has been looked at over the years, it was quite clear that, given the setting of this film, that she meant. But I'm just a bit of a genius, I guess. So I wouldn't expect everyone to pick up on that.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, so Sherlock is sort of built this whole identity around him, his pain, as it were, or this idea of Sherlock sort of surrounding his soul, perhaps even a little birdhouse in his soul, one could say. But,
Oh shit, good stuff.
Regardless, he now believes that he is Sherlock. One detail I did like about this portrayal of Sherlock is that he tries to play the violin, but then it turns out he can't. But this is actually pretty natural, because if you think about it, it's actually the communists who have the music, not Sherlock. But
Hey Jamie,
yeah,
I'm impressed that you picked up on that.
thank you.
That's
Thank you.
another.
I got it. Don't worry. I used my deductive skills.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sherlock is convinced that there's a Moriarty out there, and he's trying to communicate with him with subtle clues that will sort of lead them to meeting up and having a showdown. But like the sort of, I was going to say inconsistency before, is that all of these clues are absolutely batshit, complete coincidences. So like one is like a crossword clue that he finds that he thinks suggests that it's in Times Square. He finds a plastic bag filled with garbage, and he's convinced that that's a clue. He finds 4 pigeons and convinced that that's like a sign as well. So he's just following a trail of coincidences, as it were.
Yeah, Jimmy, you're on fire in terms of picking up
Thank you.
these clues that were in the thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Watson's been, Watson's following along with him this entire time, and she's sort of into it, even if she doesn't really entirely believe him.
Yeah.
There's a lovely bit where Sherlock is... Actually, let's talk about the scene as a whole, 'cause it's quite weird. There's a scene in a call centre, which Sherlock hears up to with Watson, and there's a woman who's saying that she's convinced that she thinks her boyfriend is trying to kill himself because he gave her a suicide call.
Yeah.
And she needs the call centre people to give her his address so that she can try and save his life.
She needs them to give her an answer.
An answer, yes.
Yeah.
That's how we know it's a message from Moriarty. But
exactly. Yeah.
She tries to call him on the phone and they say sorry.
For a second there, I thought message from Moriarty was another. They might be trying to song the way you said it.
Sorry.
The way you said it, you were like, yeah, that's how we know it's a message from
from Moriarty. Well, maybe if I go at it with enough vim and vigor. The woman, wink, tries to phone them and says, "Can I have his address, please?" And they say, "No, we can't give that information over the phone."
Yeah.
So she comes to talk to them in person, and they're like, "Well, we can only contact you on the phone. That's all we're allowed to do." And it's a whole catch-22 waka.
Yeah, to be fair, that was a bit funny. It wasn't laugh out loud funny, but it was a bit of a.
It was sort of comic situation, but they sort of play it slightly weirdly because they're like, but the woman's secretly sympathetic.
Yeah.
So well, why the fuck don't you just tell her? It's okay, it's not allowed, but no one's gonna catch you. It's just because she comes back later and they try to play this call center woman as a sympathetic character. It's like, no, she's an asshole.
But I guess she's sort of saying you're not the boss of me, and and that's
okay. That makes sense, I suppose. But I mean, she could have at least turned around to her and said, look, okay, his address is 123 this street, but you got to understand, please don't tell my boss. I broke my own rule. That's another big giant song.
I get. I mean, at the end of the day, she's an angel. The way that she.
Yeah, I guess she is. I mean, you know what? I see the beauty in her soul. I wouldn't mind having another first kiss if it was with her, but that's the way it is.
I mean, you probably get that a lot, to be honest.
That's true, but
Yeah.
That's just Mr. Me, I suppose. Regardless,
I guess you just can't keep Johnny down. At the end of the day,
you can't keep Johnny down at all. It's sorry, I've lost track. I should be allowed to think for a sec.
Yeah, I know. We I think I was planning to sprinkle in the titles of these songs, but we've gone off on a tangent. Let's get back. To the film.
I haven't talked about this honestly, so for now, no one knows my plan. But
let's get back to the film before your racist friend interrupts anymore.
Yes, the experimental film.
Oh fuck! I was saving that one. You can't. I was saving that one for when we were talking about the fucking scene at the end of this film. Damn it!
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
impressed that you did that. Shit, I already did that one. When will you die, Jamie? Tell me that.
Okay, let's get this over with.
Okay.
Yeah, so fuck, I've lost track.
You're just whistling in the dark now, to be honest.
Yes, so she calls security because Holmes tells Watson to keep her revolver down, and the security man comes, but he's going to arrest them both. But Sherlock figures out that he's into crosswords, and then reaches into his pocket and he's like, "Do you know the London Times crossword?" And the man's like, "Yeah, it's the best.
It's the best crossword.
The best one." And he's like, "I have it from last Sunday right here." And he takes it, presents it to him, and the guard is so distracted by it that Watson is able to steal his that Sherlock is able to steal his newspaper and bolt out into the street. Because this newspaper contains the crossword clue that will tell Sherlock that his next message is waiting for him in Times Square.
Now tell me, Jimmy, when he steals the newspaper and bolts out into the street, did it remind you of any comedy sketch show that perhaps would have a similarly shot sequence?
No,
perhaps by David Mitchell and.
Well, you're talking about Mitchell and Webb, obviously, but I can't think which sketch. Could you tell me?
They have the Sherlock Holmes guy. What's his name?
Sir Digby Chicken Caesar.
Yeah.
That's basically actually Sir Digby Chicken Caesar is basically the same premise of this film.
Yeah, exactly. But
you know what?
The way that, like, see when he grabbed the newspaper and like started running and the camera kind of like followed them, I immediately thought of that. I'm disappointed that you didn't as well.
I'm sad that I didn't because it's clearly correct, but it is also just now we think like I don't know how much Sir Digby Chicken Caesar material exists. Maybe 20 minutes total. Yeah, but that would be better use of your time.
All right, don't let's start on that kind of thing.
All right, yeah. Anna Nig. Anyway.
Jamie, I think it's time for your bed.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So they get to the hiding out from the police, and Sherlock hides out in a cinema, where they're showing a western. And before this happens, he takes Watson around an alley, and she says, "Well, are you getting excited, Watson? Are you enjoying the investigation?" And he says, "No, I'm not." And he goes, "Haha, I know how girls are. No means yes, and yes means..."
Wait, I missed that bit. Oh wow, that's pretty funny.
That's a good bit of folksy wisdom from a beloved pop culture icon.
Yeah, just #just70s things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also cut away here to Playfair's brother and another man who I didn't figure out the identity of. But
Moriarty.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I guess he's supposed to be he's the one.
Well, he's supposed to be the stand-in.
Some guy that's after them. Yeah.
So they're talking about the estate, and they're like, they need to get rid of this guy. So Playfair's brother says we should stick him in the loony bin, and the other guy, for absolutely no apparent reason, says that they should kill him.
Yeah, to get his money.
Never explaining why this would be any better than the perfectly legal and much easier action of taking him to the asylum.
Well, I think
it's insane.
But I think the point is that the asylum's not easy because they've tried to take him already and it's not worked. So he's like, let's just kill him.
Well, yeah, but he just left.
It
was a flaw of the method. He just walked out.
Maybe they can see him. Maybe they can see him charming the doctor, and they're thinking.
Yeah.
There's a nice cut here, Jamie, when the guy says like we got to kill him, and he does the finger gun, and then we cut to the cinema that you started talking about, and like the gun fires off.
So nice match cut.
Match cut. But also not really a match cut because it's kind of like a visual match with an audio, which is an interesting. Well, I guess he does kind of make the noise, doesn't he? Goes like bang, goes like.
Well, yeah, we assume that he says you find him first. It's the loony bin for life. I find him first, and then he does the finger gun, and then we hear this.
Then we cut to the western.
So
I like that.
We assume he'd say bam. Yeah, it was
nice.
Cool.
This film has some nice a couple nice cuts and bits of cinematography and stuff.
But
Not a
also
lot,
has
but a
some
couple.
that are absolutely dog shit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Sherlock has a little speech while they're watching the Western, which I thought was weird. Not weird. I just didn't like because it disagrees with my values. But he says that in a Western, the people aren't masses, they're individuals. And they're given the sort of just desserts of their individual choices and actions.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it's a disgraceful American individualism invading an English icon. Get out.
Yeah, well, I guess stuff is way at the end of the day, so...
Stuff is way at the end of the day. That's all I'm saying. It's disgraceful that they would do this to me, that they would do this to Sherlock. I look at the heavens and I say, "Kiss me, son of God." Such is my anger.
I look to the heavens and I say, "Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song." and I... Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Anyway. So Watson at this point looks around. The cinema's not very occupied. There's like 4 people in there, but there's a man and a woman making out. And she goes, "Whoa, they're grooving."
Yeah. It's like the one bit of 70s language in this whole film.
Like, we surprisingly, other than like the drug films, which had like their own lingo and stuff, we don't see that much 70s slang in these films, and this is the first time I think I've heard someone use the word grooving.
Grooving. No, surely some of the like getting straight in performance. Surely some of those kind of films had.
Maybe they did. I don't know. It's also because like Watson's a square.
I refuse to believe Beyond the Valley of the Dolls did not use the word grooving once.
Oh, it must have. Well, but they didn't use it to mean sex specifically.
Yes, yeah, that's fair.
I haven't heard that before. I'm sure it's sorry for the background noise, listeners. Someone keeps moving my chair, and that someone's me.
Right, I thought that was going to be like someone keeps moving a chair in another room or something. But
no. Yeah, so they talk about westerns, and then Watson is made so uncomfortable by the grooving couple that she has to leave the theater because she's never been engaged. Duncan, can you believe it?
You've never been engaged. Never engaged in kissing.
No, and she never even had any friends as an adolescent. What a loser!
What a little loser, little bitch loser.
Anyway, so this is the point where they're out in Times Square and Sherlock finds the legendary bag of, garbage with school written on it. And there's a really weird action scene where Sherlock gets into a fight with people over the hidden.
That is a bizarre scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really set up why this leads to a fight. And it's shot really strangely. Like, none of the shots last very long, but they also last too long for it to be like quick cuts, if you know what I mean.
Yes, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
It's really, I don't want to say uncomfortable as a compliment, it's just awkward viewing. And it's definitely not intentional. But it is quite funny how he keeps yelling, "That's my clue, that's my clue." But, regardless, it's a bit strange. Anyway. They get into the taxi, and Sherlock has a little speech from which we take the title of this film, and by extension, the band. Where it says that, maybe that. What does he say? He says he basically talks about how his insanity is actually fine in a way, because maybe he's a bit like Don Quixote. This is obviously a Don Quixote story. But you know what? Don Quixote, maybe he was wrong to think that all those windmills were giants. But was he wrong to think that they might be? If people never thought about what things might be, then who knows what wouldn't happen,
We'd still be living in the tall grass amongst the apes, Jamie.
Yes, if we never thought of what things might be, we'd still be in the tall grass with the apes.
Because apes famously live in tall grass.
Exactly. So... He never actually says the phrase. No one says they might be giants in the film, I don't think. But
no, I don't think so. I think it's a. It's a. I think it's I can't find any titles that would.
Yeah.
They'll need a crane.
Yeah.
To...
I was going to use that in a bit. I'm still going to use it in a bit.
Sorry.
I thought I was being clever.
Sorry.
Regardless, they find an old. What is it? It's like writing school. They say something like that. It's an old
a school.
Regardless.
Yeah.
That hasn't been in use for 30 years, and Sherlock says that they should pretend to be students. George C. Scott,
Bizarre because
at least 50. I think Watson's supposed to be late 30s, early 40s.
yeah, and the school's closed.
Yes.
Oh, they don't know that, do they?
Completely closed. When Sherlock comes up, looks at a door, finds that the door hasn't been opened for 30 years, and when he hears a noise, his reaction is to loudly say, "Is this the bursar's office?"
Which was hilarious.
But they find an old couple living in a very well-maintained garden, which they've never left for 30 years. They took every kind of seed available, and they planted them in the ground. But I think they mentioned that they've got a little basket that they wheel down, presumably for supplies. And I don't know how they've sort of arranged that basket. I guess they'll need a crane. But they've been living as they are for 30 years, they say. And Sherlock comes up and says that they've done a really good job with the garden. And they say that no one's ever complimented their work before. And it's nice, because living alone, they'd never had a point of comparison. So they didn't know how good their work was. But now Sherlock has returned a certain joy to their life.
Yes.
Nice.
Lovely.
It's a nice little sequence. And then the guy who is going to ban them attacks. And there's another slightly weird action scene. But Sherlock is able to defeat him by swinging from the chandelier thing. It's not a chandelier, hanging basket.
A vine? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless, he kicks him in the face and he's gone now. So that's nice. Sherlock and Watson... He's not gone forever, though. He's still monitoring Watson's apartment. That evening, when Sherlock comes up for dinner, he suggests that nobody ever looks at the fire escape, which is wrong. There are only 2 entrances to any New York City apartment, and literally anyone would look at the fire escape. I do not believe this. Fucking sort your bullshit. Regardless, they have a little dinner, and they find out that Sherlock can dance, and then they go to the library to do more research.
Well, they when they dance, it's quite romantic.
Yes, this is
Fall
where
in love.
Exactly, you could say that. This is sort of where the romantic tension within the film is created. Released, exactly. So it's quite interesting, I suppose, because one might ask if, given that she's a doctor and he's a psychiatric patient, whether she loves him for psychological reasons.
Wow. And then he gets shot.
Yes, he does get shot. That's right. He gets shot through the window, and he says, "This isn't Moriarty's style, man. He's usually more subtle than this."
Yeah, because he's fine. He gets shot in the head, but he's fine.
Yeah. It's a friendly shooting.
Just a scratch.
He's fine. Yeah. This is when they go to the library, and they meet the librarian, who is an old man whose name I've forgotten, and who gives a shit.
That guy. He knows Holmes.
He knows Holmes. They've clearly talked before.
Do you know which other film he was in, Jamie?
Which one?
He was in Catch-22.
Nice. I don't remember who he was in that, but
he was one of the. Who was he in it? Was he the Doctor, or no?
Maybe he would have had to have been an older character, obviously.
I'll look it up for you now. Also, I forgot to say earlier, the woman who wants to talk on the phone or get the address of the woman on the phone is Kitty Wynn, who was in the film we watched just last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, what was that? She did look familiar. Is that Panic in Needle Park? Or?
Yeah, Panic in Needle Park.
Yeah, that's cool. She looks much healthier in this.
She does. Even though, what if, Jamie?
What if this is the canon conclude? Same universe. Afterwards, Al Pacino's character went to law school and tried to take the bar exam and failed.
Exactly. And then he tried to kill himself by overdosing.
Yeah, and during this entire time, the 7+ years it would have taken, Kitty Wynn has not aged at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Jamie, we might have
New York cinematic universe
a
now.
New York cinematic universe. What else have we watched in New York? Out of Towners?
Altanis is in New York. Nothing in that contradicts the canon.
Yeah. Exactly. What else?
Yeah,
is that it?
God, I'd have to look up the YouTube channel. Nothing else comes to mind, but absolutely sure we have. It's just that the films set in New York are always so shit.
By the way, I just checked. He was the Doctor in Catch-22. So.
Well, good for you being able to notice stuff in your life.
Me?
Impressive skill, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize everyone that we've seen before, I think, in this film.
Mm.
So it's good.
Go Walkabout, Music Lovers. Music Lovers was Russia, obviously. Get Carter. The Statue, no, not the Beguiled. Not.
Are you gonna look through every single Love Story was in New York, wasn't it?
Yeah, bits of it was. When he got his job, that was in New York.
And was the Aristocats set? That's not New York, is it?
That's not New York. That's France somewhere. But like,
Yeah.
The Great White Hope probably had a bit set in New York.
You can't really remember.
Yeah.
What was the Red Circle? Was that was
Red Circle was the heist film that was set in France.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of French films, didn't we?
Oh yeah, I mean I feel that we don't watch enough international films in this podcast.
Five Easy Pieces. Was that in New York?
That's set in the South. Mostly.
But is it not part of it in New York? Or
no? There's
okay.
there's the town with the oil fields, and there's Jack's hometown, but that's definitely not New York.
There
are any others.
Yeah, what was the father? What was the one with the father?
I Never Sang for My Father, but that might be
New York.
Yeah, it might be, but it's in the suburbs. But I guess that just means it doesn't contribute the canon either. If so,
maybe all these films are in the same canon. Oh wait, no, because unless Patton stopped becoming a general.
Duncan, you're not thinking big enough. Clearly, this character is like a universe hopper. He's privy to the timeline, and he appears in different forms. He's, an immortal being, and that's like our clue. He's the connecting tissue between the stories.
Or maybe Patton becomes a judge, and then goes crazy and becomes Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, because his craziness wasn't caused by his wife dying. It was clearly caused by PTSD from the war.
Because people don't age in this universe, because Katie Wynn hasn't aged in the 7 years it's taken. So, I think we're on something, Jimmy.
Clearly. I'm glad that we figured this out. Yeah,
every film that came out in 1970 and 1971 is all in the same universe.
They're all in the same universe. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we haven't watched a single film that has resulted in the world being destroyed, which is pretty much the only thing that contradicts the canon.
Exactly.
So, they're all set in the same universe.
Yeah. Any actors that are in multiple films are the same character, just there's some reason that
Duncan's theory. My theory is that they're all demons.
Right. Cool.
Regardless, Watson and Sherlock have a fight in the library. Watson says that he's crazy and she can't believe she's let herself be dragged along enough by this, and she leaves.
Yeah.
Sherlock feels very sad, and he's like, "Well, maybe I am crazy, and I'm self-doubting here." But the librarian has a little speech, and he's like, "Well, maybe you are crazy, but who gives a shit, man? Maybe it's good to be crazy. I wish I was the Scarlet Pimpernel, and that's sort of like what you're doing, really. Isn't it good to believe that you're someone you aren't? Isn't your madness good? Isn't this nice? Isn't this better than being an ordinary person?" And Charlotte goes, "Well, maybe." And then Watson separately has a revelation that she doesn't want to go back to the asylum. And so she comes back, and she's eager now, and they're going to go find Moriarty, who is hiding in a grocery store. That is his evil plan. And they walk along, and then in a bit that's so stomach-churningly saccharine that it made me physically ill. Every character they've sort of talked to along the way comes along with them.
Yeah.
Because they're so grateful for Sherlock's help, even when he really wasn't doing anything.
So when he didn't help them as well.
Yeah, we've got the woman from the cinema. We've got some of the guys in the street, I think, during the Times Square sequence. It's all They're all here. The gang's all here. This film's rich secondary cast has
It's
all turned up.
very bizarre. It comes out of
Yeah.
nowhere. This film, I mean, I was about to say this film is very realist, which it obviously is not realist, but it's very fairly logical and
Right.
commonsensical in some way in terms of
Mm.
they're going about and things happen to them and stuff. And then suddenly in this final sequence, every single
Yeah.
character in New York that they've talked
Yeah.
to
The
marches
tone.
along with them.
The tone goes quite varies quite a lot in this final sequence. In some ways, much to the film's betterment, and in some ways, much to its detriment.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so they get to the grocery store, and Sherlock has a look around, and he's like, "Actually, Moriarty isn't here. I was wrong." And then Watson sort of manages to come up with another location from the school bag, and Sherlock's like, "Yes, yes, you've done it, Watson." But the police arrive from the asylum police.
Yeah.
And they're going to take all the loonies back there, and they say
Because
no.
all these people are loonies, including the ones that are clearly entirely sane.
Yes, but they describe them as loonies as a whole.
They do. Yeah.
And the police are going to arrest them, and they say no, and they fight back in various wacky, comic ways. The woman
So-
who lost her. Yep. So,
Oh no! Sorry, I thought you were about to move
No, no,
on
no.
to something.
you should
else.
interrupt me when you want to.
Okay, well, I was going to say apparently this sequence doesn't exist in a lot of cuts of the film.
Good. It makes it much worse.
Oh, really? I loved the sequence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it was just absurd, ridiculous.
Well,
It was
that's sort of my
it
issue.
was-
Is that like this?
finally some fucking entertainment was my
This is
thought.
much goofier than anything else in the film.
Yeah, because I meant to ask you actually at the start, was the version that you saw this one? Because I was reading the Wikipedia for this thing, and it was talking about different releases, and it was saying like, you know, the cinema release was 98 minutes, and then it got cut down to 96, and the DVD was 91. The current cut's 87. There's one that's 90, whatever. But it said most of the cuts come from the grocery sequence, which is not even present in most cuts. And I was like, well, I think that's the film would be really missing something without this, because it's the big climax, as dumb as it is.
It is very dumb. That's really like not a good sign if like subsequent releases of the film keep cutting out content.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Particularly the DVD release. I mean, like, you know, clearly if someone's buying the DVD, you don't need to cut out content for them, surely.
You'd think not.
And like, probably assume they like the film already. Anyway, regardless, the scene's very dumb. The woman who likes westerns has a little sort of like rubber dart gun that she fires at a cop. The old librarian man has got a Scarlet Pimpernel outfit on. He's fighting them with a rubber sword. A lot of people fall into grocery shelves or like slip up in comic ways.
Yeah,
I think one cop falls into the freezer, if I remember correctly.
yeah, I think so.
And there's all this like really like womp 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 sort of music playing, you know, sort of tuba stuff, which is an interesting choice. The sentence I've written down in my notes is, and I quote, "This I think is too goofy." There's towards the end, it looks like the asylum police are gonna defeat them, but
Yeah.
Sherlock comes upon a clever little plan. Why don't you describe that genius plan for us, Duncan?
Well, you see, Jamie, of course, all the people that are described as loonies are individuals, Jamie, and they can think for themselves. But all the asylum police are certainly not individuals. So what Sherlock Holmes does is he goes up to the front and he starts spouting into the microphones various deals that are on in the store, and like a bunch of sheeple, all the police and all the doctors and anyone that's there to get these loonies suddenly grab a shopping cart and run around getting deals, allowing Sherlock and his band of loonies to escape.
Yeah, it's disgraceful, but I'm glad that those loonies were able to push back the hands of the state.
It's a fantastic commentary on capitalism, Jamie.
My shit, are you trying to sell it to me now?
Well, I'm saying this. It's such a brilliant, you know, commentary on consumerism and what it does to the brain and how it strips everyone of their individuality. It's really, really powerful
Incredible stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's what's. I mean, you know, in capitalism, like we're all encouraged to consume as much as we possibly can, even if we're on minimum wage, to just go outside our means. But you know, Doctor Worm. Regardless, um,
Right.
the end of the sequence
Yeah.
where actually wait, hold on. Well, I meant to say the message of capitalism is that stuff is the way.
Right.
Uh,
We've had that one already, Jamie.
I'm sorry.
You messed up.
I'm sorry, man. I'm
You're
sorry.
you're just a particle man. You should go back to Istanbul.
No, no.
Go back to Istanbul with the Mesopotamians and sing
No.
another father song.
How will I pay, not without my place in the podcast? How will I play my bills, bills, bills?
You're gonna have to put your hand inside the puppet head and become a ventriloquist, Jamie.
God, I'm a coward. This is a real brain problem situation.
Sorry, Jamie. It's not my birthday. I can't. help. You're gonna be asking why does the sun shine when you've got your lucky ball and chain round your ankle.
Okay, guys. Spoiler alert. This is the end of the film.
Yeah.
Sherlock and Watson go out to a tunnel, and Watson is now very enamored with Sherlock's particular way of viewing the world, and they look at sort of a dark tunnel where we can't see anything, and Sherlock says, "Do you hear Moriarty coming?" And we hear a sort of flip, flop, flip, flop. And Watson says, "No, I don't." He's like, "No, no, listen." She's like, "Yes, yes, I do hear Moriarty." And he says, "Do you see him?" And we never see any of this stuff. And she says, "No." And he's like, "Do you?" He said, "No, yes, yes, I do see him now." And we never see any of the tunnel at this point. It's just you entirely on their faces. And thus ends the film as Watson clearly has made the decision to share in Sherlock's delusion.
Yes.
He's not humouring him during the sequence. He genuinely believes.
Indeed.
So yeah, it's a bit more cerebral than I was expecting an ending to be.
I quite like the ending. Well, yeah.
I thought the ending was more interesting than it otherwise would have been. I don't think it's a good message.
No,
But-
no. I think, yeah. I don't really think the film's that good, but I did like the last 15 minutes just because it got a bit interesting. It got interesting.
Yeah, it's like what's the word for like the film idolizes mental illness
Yeah.
in a way that I think is not
Great.
or really productive or really encouraging of sympathy towards the mentally ill. I think like the film's message is like, society is such a drag. Like maybe it's good to be mad because you can like experience something more. If you know what I mean?
Live in your own world.
Which, yeah, I don't think is. Not, I don't know about that one, Chief. Not, I don't. I mean, not just because it's hashtag problematic, but like, I just don't think that's a very good artistic message either. Really, I suppose it sort of justifies closing yourself off from people and indulging in a life of fantasy rather than engaging with the world around you. I suppose, because like George has, sorry, not George. George C. Scott's character has basically abandoned his entire life in favor of a sort of fictional character, and nobody really mourns for the old Mr. Playfair who's basically died, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's like let Holmes become the boss of him.
Yeah, it's just sort of, I guess it's just denialism, really. So I think it's quite a depressing.
Maybe nihilism's the best ideology, Jamie. Who knows?
I don't believe that.
Maybe everyone should just be a nihilist.
But yeah, but I suppose you're allowed to make up your own conclusions to it. But I think
I am. That's very kind of you, Jamie.
You are, yes.
Because I was beginning to think you were the boss of me, and now I'm thinking that you're just my racist friend.
Look, Duncan, to me you're a piece of dirt. But why don't you lie still, little bottle, and let me talk about stuff some more?
All right, Jamie. Take off your purple toupee. You're not any better than any of the rest of us.
All right. Well, look, just don't let's start, okay?
Jamie, do you remember back when we watched that film, The Statue?
Yes, is that going to be relevant to the discussion of the film, Duncan? Or is it perhaps relevant to something else?
I was just thinking about how the statue got me high, you know?
Oh, mama. Um. Okay. Well, yeah, but crimes
Oh.
obviously. Um.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like the ending. That's the long and short of it. What did you think of it?
Message wise, I think I agree with you.
Mm.
But sort of within the film and artistically, I quite liked it.
Yeah.
It was yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, the other thing I was thinking, I'm not. I think it's definitely the best ending the film could have had, in a way as well, given that it was so.
Yeah, because I don't really think he could have been healed.
Yeah, I mean.
Although saying that, I mean, he starts to, doesn't he? I mean, he starts to in the library. I think he starts to kind of realize who he actually is and snap out
Yeah.
of it a bit. And then Watson comes running in and goes, "Let's solve this case." So I guess and the way the film plays that it is a good thing that he's
Mm.
snapping out of it. But then it kind of feels like the message suddenly flips, and it's like, actually, no, do you know what? He'll have more fun damaging up grocery stores than he will being a boring
Yeah.
old judge.
Well, I suppose.
And the other thing is, presumably at the end of the film, his
Yeah.
brother's still after him to get him into the mental hospital. His brother's pals after him to kill him,
Yeah.
and all those loonies are still probably fucked because the police have been distracted briefly. So actually, it's not like the film it's not got a particularly triumphant ending.
Yeah, well, I suppose because all that the Sherlock persona really helps is Mr. Playfair to just have like a better perspective on life and himself. It's like he's created a version of himself that he's able to live with if he feels so
Yeah,
like without his wife.
yeah,
But like, he's still endangered himself and others. He's not really learned anything. He doesn't have an arc. It's all Watson's arc, I suppose. Well, he does have an arc, but it's a small one. But I guess Watson's the character who changes throughout the film.
yeah,
But yeah, I suppose the opposite version of this film would be one where it was consistently treated as a problem, and then like maybe he resisted at first, but he was eventually cured, and then like the ending's a bit wistful about like what's been lost, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like this. It's this like denial of the fact that his old life could have been worthwhile. That is, it's this dislike of normal people, of being normal, that I find unhealthy and artistically bankrupt.
Yeah.
That's that fuels this film in a lot of ways. And you know what? It goes back to that bloody individualism speech in the cinema. But yeah, like the film is uncomfortable with the idea of someone being ordinary in the way that a lot of these 70s films are.
Yeah, it's weird because I think there's a fine line, isn't there, that needs to be cut between being accepting of people that are different and just straight up being like, yeah.
Yeah, because
But
like,
I guess it's sort of a time of individuality, isn't it? And
yeah, well, I
or
suppose
in some ways that's the sort of the counter, or not the counter culture, the dominant culture, but
I suppose in a lot of
rising
those
out of the
discussions,
counterculture.
though, like if we look at performance or getting straight, I'm sorry to keep bringing up these films week after week, but
Yeah.
they're like presented as a struggle between conformity and being true to yourself,
yeah,
rather than normalcy versus some kind of
yeah, that's true. It's just about the
extra
presentation.
special
Like
life.
the message is maybe the same, but it's just about how it's presented.
Well, I'm not
and
sure
how-
it is because it's not like
No?
Sherlock's. Well, 'cause it's not really about conformity, I suppose, or at least we never get the sense that the Scott was a conformist, and this new Sherlock is happy because he doesn't have to conform. It's just
I mean, it kind of is because that's the whole point of the people in the grocery store defeating the police is that they represent conformity and these people are unique and
they're
against
individual. Well, that's like
so I think at heart it's the same message. It's just I agree that it's presented pretty strangely.
I feel there's like this subtle distinction between this idea that like it's bad to feel forced to conform and this idea that it's bad to be normal at all, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like, or like, because I mean, I don't want to sound gloom and doom here, but like the vast majority of people are by definition normal, and
Yeah,
like I think if you resent that, then that just inevitably paves way to, at the very least, elitism.
yeah,
But like, I don't think you should. Not that you shouldn't tell people, because obviously you can say what you want. But like, I don't think it's good to resent people being normal because of being normal. I think it's fine and healthy to have problems with people who are conforming to a false ideal. But when it's just like there's a group, but it's just like I can't be normal. I need to be special in some way.
yeah.
Then there's an insecurity to that that is unhealthy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that was a big speech, Jamie.
Thank you.
Well done.
Hopefully it made sense.
Shall we rate the film?
Yes, yes, yes. So, yeah, I just try to say that's why I would find this film's message disagreeable compared to a lot of these other films that we've watched,
Right.
where I find it more. Because
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I like the '60s, early '70s attitude.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not the same message. It's the same attitude, but
Yes.
presented with a different message. That's
Exactly.
that's a good way to describe it.
Mhm.
Well done.
Yeah. So, perhaps this is the beginning of the decay of that attitude, even.
We'll find out,
Yeah.
I guess.
Regardless, my rating for this film. Duncan and I rate films on a 5-point scale.
Oh, yeah.
We start from don't watch it, move up to stream it. If
No,
you,
no.
no,
We go-
watch if it's on. The
Jamie,
one that
I'll do this bit.
you do it. It's your job usually. You do
Okay,
it. You're good
so
at
we rate from 1 to 5, as Jamie, or not from 1 to 5. We have a 5-point rating system.
it.
The first
You
point
also
is
messed up.
First point is don't watch. I messed up because you put me off. First one is don't watch. Just don't watch it. Just
No.
don't watch the film. The next one is watch if it's on. Now that means if you're sitting watching the telly and you see this film on, and you think you can't be bothered changing the channel, or you're just getting comfortable, or whatever, give it a watch. Or if your flatmate, girlfriend, mum, whatever, is like, I want to watch this film, you can watch it with them. It's good enough to watch it. Watch if it's on. Then we have stream it, which means if it's available for free, on Prime or Netflix or whatever, then you should give it a watch. We recommend you watch it, but don't pay any money for it beyond your streaming service. Then we have buy it, which means pay money for it. Most of these films are available for payment on Amazon Prime or whatever. By the way, justwatch.com, we've not mentioned it for a while. That's what I use to find out what films are on. I believe it's what Jamie
True.
uses as well.
Yep.
Um,
And the good old
not-
Google search.
Not sponsored, but it's very useful for seeing what things are on. Not for this film though. Final one is buy the Criterion Collection, which means go out, get the special edition DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. Just spend loads of money on a film. Get a little statuette, buy a T-shirt. This is a really good film, so you should splash out on it. That is our rating system. What are you rating this film, Jamie?
I think to be uncreative, probably watch. Nah. Yeah, watch if it's on. It's got interesting bit.
Okay, I'm gonna rate it just because you've said that. I'm gonna rate it stream it because I want to represent that I enjoyed the silly bits of this film more than you did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say stream it, but it's a pretty low stream it.
Yeah,
I'd-
this is also quite
yeah.
a low watch if it's on. To be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. So I'm a high watch if it's on, low stream it. We're moving
Yeah.
towards a 10-point rating system here, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's about where I am.
Eventually, everything will just be a meta score.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to start doing out of 1,000.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Okay.
Do you want to discuss what you've been doing this week? I genuinely haven't been doing anything.
I very briefly, because Wales Switzerland has just started. I've been watching the Euros. Not really watching them because there was only one game yesterday, but I'm looking forward to it, Jamie, because my flatmate has got me on this like predictor thing. So it's like it's not got any money associated with it. It's just like a little like friendly league thing. But you like predict the score of every game. You predict who's going to score first, which team's going to score first, and then you get like points for how many things you get right.
Nice.
So that gives a lot of like interest when you're watching the games that I wouldn't normally have. So I will be watching the Euros, and I have been watching the Euros, and that's the main thing I've been doing.
Nice.
I'm trying to think. Oh, I've been watching through. I can't remember if I mentioned it last week. I've been watching through the Jurassic Park films again.
Yeah, you mentioned you were about
Yeah.
to start the third one, I believe.
Right. Well, we just watched Jurassic World.
Cool.
So we'll watch Fallen Kingdom, and then I want to watch Camp Cretaceous as well because I've not seen it, even though it's for kids.
Any new insights on this rewatch?
So I don't know if this is a new insight, but I probably haven't talked about it in the podcast before. I find Jurassic World a very interesting film because
I don't think anyone's ever said that about Jurassic World.
it's very critical of like reopening the park and just like doing the same thing again when it itself is doing that, right?
Yep.
And it's also very critical of corporate sponsorship, but it itself has an absolute shit ton in it. And I find that very interesting because to me what that says is they were like, we can make a lot of money while still making a comment on this, and they just fucking went for it, and I respect that a lot.
I suppose that's the like contradiction at the heart of a lot of cinema, really.
Yeah. Like it's really like, you know, like there's like the Samsung Innovation Center and like all this stuff, and they joke about how Verizon is going to sponsor the dinosaur and stuff, but you know that in real life those companies have paid money to be that, and the companies don't care because they're getting exposure, even if it's critical of the whole system, they're still getting exposure. So that's why I find Jurassic World really interesting. As a Jurassic Park film, rewatching it, it's a little bit disappointing because it's a little bit like for kids, you know, like there's a big dinosaur fight and stuff that. Although I guess there's a dinosaur fight in some of the other ones, but yeah, that's my view on it. But I enjoyed it a lot. I still love it. I like all of them, to be honest. So, yeah,
cool.
That's me.
For next week.
Yeah.
Right. So next week is a sort of last dry week, and then the next 2 weeks after that we have a lot of very good films coming out in quick succession. So next week, the week after next, we are I think going to have to do a double bill because both McCabe and Mrs. Miller and Shaft come out that week.
Right.
Both of which are obviously very historically important.
Never heard of either of them.
You must have heard of Shaft.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I don't know.
You'll recognise the theme tune, I'm sure.
Okay.
You'll have to simply take my word for it that they are very important.
Right.
The week after that, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh yes. I'm so excited for that. I've not seen that film for quite a while.
But anyway, that leaves us with the question of what to do next week, because we've basically got one really important, historically important heist film coming out the week after in Shaft, and one really important Western film coming out in McCabe and Mrs. Miller. For next week, we have a choice of two films. One is a less important Western called The Wild Rovers, which might be good to as like a setup for watching McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
Yeah.
It stars William Holden and Ryan O'Neill.
Right.
The other choice is we can watch the Anderson tapes starring Sean Connery. The heist film, which might be a good preparation for Shaft.
Alternatively, we could watch one that we missed a few weeks ago.
We could, but both of these films are okay, and I like.
No, they both sound good. To be fair, I think I would rather watch the heist film.
Okay, well that's fine. It's also the shorter one. Which is usually
I mean, we'll discuss more off podcast, but I think that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, yeah. So next week's film will almost certainly be the Anderson tapes.
Nice.
And then week after that will be Shaft and McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and the week after that will be Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Nice. We're
prepared.
We're doing it. Good.
Cool.
Okay. Well.
Right. In that case,
farewell, my friends.
Farewell, my friends. Signing off.
Wait. Do you want to know? Do you want to know what I predicted for this game, Jamie, for Will Switzerland?
What did you predict?
I predicted 2-2.
Oh, you know what, Duncan? That's an insult to the fact checkers. But I like fun, so I'm going to hang up this microphone and look on the bright side. And when the lights come on, I'm going to think that it's good to be alive whilst you're in music jail, and I can help the next in line, which I assume will be an underwater woman.
Jamie, I don't know how many of those were song titles and how much of those you just made up. I didn't recognise any of those from the list that I've got.
Fantastic.
Okay, well,
I'm actually going to do work and listen. I'm going to listen to a lot of They Might Be Giants now.
I should have had one ready. Damn
good.
Man, I don't know if there's any that I've not said, to be honest. Okay, I don't think there is. So I'm just going to say
you know where you belong, Duncan. You belong in a museum of idiots.
I'm going to say goodbye, Jimmy. I'm off to Istanbul.
Great. The other side of the world.